The air crackled with excitement. Graduation night. A time for celebration, for memories, for dares. Our group, giddy and invincible, huddled under the dim streetlights. We had been inseparable since kindergarten. Now, on the brink of adulthood, we were ready for one last adventure.
Who's up for Lover's Lane?
Mark challenged, his voice a mixture of bravado and fear. Lover's Lane. A winding, deserted road on the edge of town, shrouded in a chilling legend, the legend of the Hookman. A shiver ran down my spine. We all knew the story. It was a local legend, passed down through generations, each telling more terrifying than the last.
Don't be chicken, Sarah,
Emily teased, nudging me with her elbow. I tried to laugh it off, but the darkness seemed to press in, suffocating my bravado. Still, I wouldn't back down. Not tonight. The legend spoke of a powerful sorcerer, driven mad by a broken heart. His love, unrequited and lost, turned his heart to darkness. Accused of dark magic, he was condemned to death, dragged through the streets by a torch-wielding mob. His body was left to rot in the woods near Lover's Lane, a place once filled with his happiest memories. But his spirit, twisted by rage and vengeance, refused to rest. It lingered, growing more malevolent with each passing year. They say he replaced his severed hand with a rusty hook, a symbol of his undying rage and sorrow. They say he lurks in the shadows of Lover's Lane, preying on those foolish enough to tempt fate, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Hookman, a malevolent spirit, feeding on fear, growing stronger with each terrified scream, each whispered tale of his legend. Mark's challenge hung in the air, a tangible entity in the oppressive silence. "Who dares to face the Hookman?" he taunted. It was a test, a rite of passage into adulthood, a chance to prove our bravery to each other and ourselves. We would prove our courage, laugh in the face of fear, or so we thought, as nervous laughter filled the air. We piled into Jake's speed-up truck, the engine sputtering to life like a warning growl, a prelude to the night's events. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the road ahead, casting eerie shadows on the trees. The road to Lover's Lane, a path shrouded in mystery and fear, awaited us. The old iron gates loomed before us, twisted and overgrown with ivy, as if they had been untouched for centuries. They creaked open as if in warning, the sound amplified in the stillness, echoing through the night like a ghostly whisper. The air grew heavy, thick with a strange energy that sent shivers down our spines, making every breath feel like a struggle. Lover's Lane was everything the stories had promised, and more. A place where reality and legends seemed to blur. The ancient trees, their branches, heavy with Spanish moss, formed a dark canopy overhead, blocking out the moonlight and casting eerie shadows. The air was thick with the scent of decay and damp earth, a reminder of the forest's age and secrets. We drove slowly, the silence broken only by the crunch of gravel under the tires, each sound magnified in the oppressive quiet. Each rustle of leaves, every snapping twig, sent our hearts racing, as if the forest itself was alive and watching us. We were determined to see this through, to conquer our fears. But the oppressive atmosphere was taking its toll, weighing heavily on our minds. The further we ventured into the woods, the more palpable the fear became, a tangible force that seemed to close in around us. It was as if the legend itself had seeped into our bones, chilling us from the inside out, making every step feel like a journey into the unknown.
Did you hear that?
Emily whispered, her voice trembling. We all froze, listening intently. A low, mournful howl echoed through the trees, sending chills down our spines.
It's just the wind,
Jake said, his voice strained. But his face was pale, and his knuckles were white as he gripped the steering wheel. We tried to laugh it off, to convince ourselves it was nothing. But the doubt had been sown. The fear, once a distant whisper, was growing louder. The truck sputtered, the engine coughing. Jake pumped the gas, but it died again, plunging us into darkness. We were stranded. Panic welled up inside me, threatening to overwhelm my senses. This was it. This was how the legend always started. A broken-down car, a group of terrified teenagers, and the lurking presence of the Hookman.
We need to get out of here.
Mark said, his voice tight with fear. He fumbled for his phone, but there was no signal. Of course not. We were on our own. We huddled together in the darkness, our eyes wide with terror, listening to every creak and groan of the ancient trees. Every sound was amplified, distorted by our fear. Then, we saw it. A faint light flickering in the distance. Hope surged through us, momentarily eclipsing our fear.
Help! Can anyone hear us?
Emily called out, her voice weak but desperate. The light flickered again, moving closer. Relief washed over me. We were saved, but the relief was short-lived. As the light drew nearer, we made out a figure emerging from the darkness. Tall, imposing, with a long, dark coat that billowed behind it like a shroud. And then, we saw it. The glint of metal in the dim light. A hook. Terror, raw and primal, surged through us. We were trapped, hunted. The Hookman had come for us.
"Run!" Jake screamed, his voice cracking.
We scrambled out of the truck, scattering in different directions. But the woods were a labyrinth. The trees seemed to reach out with skeletal branches, determined to ensnare us. I ran blindly, my lungs burning, my heart pounding against my ribs. The sound of my own ragged breathing filled my ears, drowning out all other sounds. A twig snapped behind me. I didn't dare look back. I knew the Hookman was close, his presence a suffocating weight on my chest. He was toying with us, herding us like sheep, feeding on our fear. I stumbled into a clearing, my legs giving way beneath me. The full moon hung heavy in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows. And then I saw him, the Hookman. He stood at the edge of the clearing, his silhouette outlined by the moonlight. He was tall and gaunt, his features hidden by the shadows of his hood. But I could feel his eyes on me, cold and predatory. The hook glinted in the moonlight, a menacing reminder of his power. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move, unable to scream. This was how it ended. But then I remembered something. Something my grandmother used to say about the Hookman. He feeds on fear, she'd warned. Don't let him see you're afraid.
"You're not real," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "You're just a story, a legend, a figment of imagination." A surge of defiance coursed through me. I would not be his victim. I would not let this legend control my fate. I would not let fear consume me. I stood up, my legs trembling, and faced him. My heart pounded, but I held my ground. He took a step closer, his hook scraping against the ground. The sound sent shivers down my spine, echoing in the silence. "You have no power over me," I declared. "I don't believe in you. Your existence is nothing but a myth." He paused, his head tilting slightly as if considering my words. A flicker of doubt or amusement. I couldn't tell. I pressed on, my voice gaining strength. "I am stronger than your curse. I am not afraid."
The Hookman let out a low growl, a sound of frustration and rage. He lunged at me, his hook raised high, ready to strike. I closed my eyes, bracing for the impact, but it never came. The silence was deafening. I opened my eyes to see the Hookman frozen in midair, his body surrounded by a blinding light. It was as if time had stopped. He screamed, a sound of pure agony, and then he was gone. The light faded, leaving behind only the echo of his scream. The curse was broken. I don't know how long I stood there trembling in the aftermath, but eventually I heard voices calling my name. My friends. They found me standing in the clearing, dazed and disoriented. I told them what had happened, how I had faced the Hookman, and how he had vanished. They didn't believe me at first, but they couldn't deny the terror in my eyes, the truth etched on my face. We never went back to Lover's Lane. The memory of that night, of the Hookman, was forever seared into our minds. We had faced our fears, but we had also learned that some legends are best left undisturbed. We may have escaped with our lives, but we were forever changed, haunted by the memory of the Hookman and the terrifying knowledge that some things are best left in the dark. Subscribe for more, and make sure to share if you dare. Keep watching for more thrills.